Okay, so believe it or not, this is not the first time we've talked about this topic. 100%, I am sure of that. The moment we had seen the updates of what the Maple Leafs were doing with their defense, I made the connection instantly and I was like, wait a minute. That actually is not a bad idea. And there has been very legitimate documented video footage of us talking about this same thing from 2 years ago. So, what we're talking about is the Toronto Maple Leafs and their defense, as well as the injuries sustained to a number of blue liners on the team. You have guys like Timothy Liljegren, you have guys like Jordie Benn, you have other players coming in and out of the lineup, and as a result, you had yourselves a few preseason games earlier on with guys like Alexander Kerfoot and Calle Jarnkrok, two players that are primarily forwards, playing defense in the process. Now, with the preseason game against the Canadiens wherein Kerfoot and Jarnkrok were playing D, there was an entire discussion opened up about saying, hey, there should be other defensemen available on the bench. Why the heck are you forced to play guys more in positions they're not comfortable with if you get injuries in the middle of a game? Because Jordie Benn ended up leaving that game, and I believe Dahlstrom did as well. So, there was somewhat of a controversy going on around that. But either way, the Maple Leafs D-core has not really been the healthiest the past few days. And as a result, you have some interesting names suiting up in their blue line instead during practice. The big name that has been popping up on the blue line once in a while has been none other than Mitch Marner, who is an absolute stud of a hockey player. He is a 100-point caliber guy who hasn't gotten 100 points yet. He's likely going to get there soon, if not this upcoming season. But of course, we are just talking about Marner when he plays on the right wing with Austin Matthews. Marner playing on the defensive side of things will be a lot different. Hopefully as effective, if not even more effective, because there's a tad more room to move around on the defensive side of things. But we've always kind of known that Marner is a capable defensive player. He plays in the PK, he's good along the boards sometimes, etc., etc. And so, with this dearth of defensemen that the Maple Leafs end up having, putting a guy like Marner on that blue line isn't really the worst move that you can do. However, when it comes to Marner being a defenseman, this is why I said it at the beginning, hey, we have talked about this before. I'm feeling some deja vu here because this is not a new idea. Let's go back over to a video we made back in, when was this, September 13th of 2020, so literally 2 years ago. What we did was we talked about the idea of Quinn Hughes being a Mitch Marner comparison had Marner switched to defense. Now, this was all hypothetical back when we made this video, but we were talking about some comments made by Rhys Jessop, who is a very interesting hockey Twitter personality. I believe he did indeed work for some NHL teams in the past, but had since gone to the social media sphere to talk about hockey publicly on Twitter. He's been a very knowledgeable follow, and he has some really good insight on the game. This is what he tweeted out 2 years ago on an article from The Athletic talking about how young defensemen are taking the playoffs by storm and changing the position for the better. Remember, Rhys Jessop has had experience working in the game of hockey, and so his scouting eye is a lot more fine-tuned than me or any of the other fine folks that don't do this for a living. Sometimes I'll watch a 6'3" kid playing D and be like, that kid's a right wing, but since he's been big, he's just been played on D his whole life. And sometimes I'll watch a 5'10" forward like, he does really well when the game is in front of him, but someone was afraid of a short kid on the blue line. You then have yourself some other tweets that were made replying to this type of discussion that were deleted. This tweet was actually still there, the sometimes I'll watch a 6'3" kid playing D tweet, it's still up there, but there was a recently since deleted tweet made by Rhys as well, wherein he quote-tweeted his own tweet and said, anyways, Quinn Hughes is what happens when Mitch Marner learns gap control. Marner is a defenseman. Proceed as such. He then had some replies to this tweet from 2020. Here's what Hannah ended up saying. Dude. Rhys says, Marner likes time and space with the puck. He excels on the perimeter and slashing into pressure from space. He is deceptive with his feet and he has elite vision. Tell me I'm wrong. I dare you. And that's kind of the thing that I really like about how Rhys made his point, is that Quinn Hughes, as we had seen yesterday in the preseason game against the Seattle Kraken, He does all this stuff. He loves having the puck on his stick. He is really good at the perimeter game, wherein he controls the play pretty much from the outside. He manipulates opposing defenders with his footwork and his edges. He's able to open up the puck with his blade and make people think he's going one way, and then he explodes the opposite way. Quinn Hughes does this on a dime, night in and night out. And Marner is kind of the same way. So when it comes to the way that Marner is able to hover around the zone, around the perimeter with the puck, just dazzle, go inside, outside, force his way into the middle, and cut in with deception and speed, Marner plays such a similar game to Quinn Hughes, except Marner is a right wing. This time, though, we might have ourselves a little bit of a different conversation when the Leafs start putting Marner on defense. Now, I don't know if this is going to stick around long term. Based off of how it was being talked about, Sheldon Keefe said there's areas where we think offensively we'd like to improve in terms of transition and play along the blue line. Morgan Riley said that he thinks that Mitch Marner would be considered an offensive defenseman, which is very, very clear to see why. So, who knows if this Marner on D experiment is going to last as long as a guy like Timothy Liljegren or a Jordy Ben is going to be out for. But I just wanted to give it some food for thought because this is an idea that we have explored before, and it's one that has been discussed at great length on the channel in the past. There also were some comments on the Marner video that we made 2 years ago going over the same conversation here. Other people saying that it's an interesting idea, they would like to try it. Hey, it's actually not a bad comparison, like when you articulate it like that, it actually makes a lot of sense. And then you go out there and you see 2 years later, they're actually playing Marner on D. It works, man. Like, I don't know, this is sort of the weird transition that I feel the NHL is going towards, because obviously if Mitch Marner comes over and he plays D, he's not playing like Brent Burns. He's not an absolute big, tall, bearded, just Bigfoot of a man that can go out there and just shoot pucks on goal, create rebounds, create offense like crazy from afar. Marner, Hughes, these guys excel by being able to cut in and find the right angles for passing, shooting, and scoring opportunities. There are very few players like Hughes and Marner and the other rover guys that really excel when the puck is on their stick and they dictate the play at a tremendous ease, that I find this comparison so compelling because, I mean, of course, I'm a Canucks fan. I love Quinn Hughes. And remembering what Mitch Marner was doing with the London Knights back in 2015 and 2016, it's just so mind-boggling to see that it's actually sort of manifesting. And I feel like if you give a few games for Marner to play at the defensive position, you might end up liking him a bit more than when he's a right wing. Sure, there's less responsibility as a winger, therefore more room to move along the perimeter and in deep, but I think for guys like Marner, it would be fair to say that they like it when they have the pressure. They like it when there's more responsibility on them. They like it when they're more important to the team. And being a right-handed defender versus being a right winger is a lot more important to a hockey team just in general, especially if you can have a guy who is as talented as Marner switch between both of those positions. So, Marner Norris one day? I don't know, you can talk to me in the comments, all your thoughts about that, but either way, we'll leave a link in the description to Rhys Jessop's Twitter account, as well as the TSN piece that we talked about, where Sheldon Keefe talked about Marner being a defenseman, but either way, what are your thoughts on this idea? Do you remember the video that we made 2 years ago going over this exact same thing, and how Mitch Marner is somewhat of a Quinn Hughes-like player, just a right wing and a right-handed guy instead of being a left-handed D-man like Quinn is? Quinn's moving over to the right side now, so I guess there's a little bit more of a comparison to be made there, but either way, stylistically, when it comes to how they play the game, how they rove around the offensive zone, what are your thoughts on the comparison being made over here and how they're able to excel in the perimeter, etc., etc.? Do you think Mitch Marner can be a good defenseman? And could he be as good as a Quinn Hughes? Talk in the comments all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.